In a move that could reshape U.S. economic policy, President Donald Trump has appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, asking for a critical decision on the legality of his controversial tariffs. Let's dive into the heart of this case and understand what's at stake for the future of global trade and American businesses.
Welcome. Today, we're discussing a pivotal moment in American trade policy. President Trump is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to rule on whether he has the power to impose tariffs on foreign nations, which could force the U.S. to refund billions of dollars in tariffs. Let's break down the story and understand what this means for the economy, small businesses, and international trade. In April, President Trump used the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose sweeping tariffs on over 90 countries. These included a baseline 10% tariff and reciprocal tariffs aimed at correcting trade imbalances. He argued that the U.S. faced an economic emergency, citing national security concerns and trade imbalances. But just last week, a divided U.S. Court of Appeals ruled 7-4 that these tariffs were illegal, arguing that the power to impose such levies belongs to Congress, not the president.
The case revolves around whether the president has the constitutional authority to impose tariffs unilaterally. This decision has already disrupted trade negotiations and created legal uncertainty over President Trump's economic policies.
And now, the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to step in and potentially overturn this ruling, arguing that the tariffs are necessary to protect national security and the American economy. The stakes are incredibly high. If the Supreme Court rules in Trump's favor, it could give the president sweeping powers over tariffs, allowing him to set import taxes without congressional approval. This would have far-reaching impacts on the U.S. economy, potentially influencing everything from domestic manufacturing to global trade relations. If the court upholds the lower court's decision, billions of dollars in tariffs could be refunded to businesses that have been affected by these policies. But that's not all. It could set a precedent for how future presidents can handle tariffs, possibly diminishing Congress's role in international trade. President Trump justified the tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, which grants the president authority to act against unusual and extraordinary threats. In this case, he argued that trade imbalances with countries like China and Mexico were harmful to U.S. manufacturing and national security. However, the court's ruling challenged this interpretation, stating that setting tariffs is a power that belongs to Congress. This has sparked heated debates about the balance of power between the executive and legislative branches. Many small businesses have felt the pain of these tariffs, with some arguing that they are facing serious financial hardship. In fact, small business groups are hopeful that the Supreme Court will rule in their favor, believing that these tariffs are unlawful and jeopardize their survival.
We've seen prices skyrocket, and it's affecting our bottom line. These tariffs are hurting our ability to compete in the marketplace.
The timeline of this case is critical. If the Supreme Court denies to review the case, the decision from the appeals court could go into effect on October 14th. This would mean major changes in U.S. tariff policy. But if the court agrees to take up the case, we could be looking at months of legal battles before a final decision is made, with far-reaching consequences for U.S. businesses and international trade agreements. As this case unfolds, the world will be watching closely. Will the Supreme Court give the president the power to reshape U.S. trade policy? Or will Congress regain control over tariff decisions? Stay informed and follow the updates. This decision could be one of the most significant rulings in recent history.
Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for updates on this important legal battle and continue supporting independent journalism that keeps you informed, only on PBS.